I would say with crst it's pretty decent, but as anything, it has its ups and downs and stuff they can improve upon. So one thing I didn't like about their flatbed division was that they allowed student drivers after 6 months of running to become a mentor. I don't believe that is enough time out on the road to have experience like everything that you can experience out there on the road. So 6 months for them to be allowed to become a mentor just was ridiculous to me. So that was one reason why I was kind of against their mentor division, because like I said, that right there is just not enough time to be experienced enough to teach somebody else how to do this job. So there was that. And then when it comes to the mentor program, you have a student for a total of, I want to say it was 3 to 4 weeks, or until they accumulated 12,000 miles. So you have a student from anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, or accumulate 12,000 miles, whichever comes first. And they have to learn, like, I think it's like 20 backings, 20 straight line backings, 20 angle backings, 20 alley docks. They have to learn all that stuff before they're allowed to graduate and get off of your truck. One thing I didn't like about it was when you're getting your student, they don't really give you any time to like get to know your student. Like, they just throw you a student and, hey, that's the student you have to teach. For me, if for being a mentor, it's like having a team driver. You want to know who you have in your truck with you. You don't just want in and everybody in your truck. It's like, take one student I had. This dude, like, I get where he's coming from in a way, but at the same time, it's like, I wouldn't say I didn't feel safe with him in my truck. I just didn't want to deal with not knowing what was going through his head in the truck. Cause like, when he got onto the truck, you know, it was all cool, and then came day 2 of him being on the truck. He was constantly seeing him on the phone, cussing, him and his girl arguing, cussing each other out, stuff like that, him threatening her life, you know, shit like that. And it's like, if your mental state like that is to, you know, to threaten somebody like that, I really don't want you on my truck. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna have you on my truck. So the minute I got to a terminal, he was, you know, straight off my truck. So yeah, for me, if they're for their mentor program, like, they need to allow the mentors time to actually meet the driver, meet the student, see what they're all about, you know, see if it'll work out with having them out on the road with them for damn near a month at a time. So yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about it. Yes, when you get into the money aspect of it, everybody will tell you that you make a lot of money as a mentor. That is yes and no on how much you make. So the way I look at it is like, I look at it as, you know, in the flatbed division, is as a mentor on the van division, you get paid per load, just like on flatbed division. They take 70%, give you a certain percentage, and then, but the thing is, like, the reason why people say they make more money is because it's 2 people driving, where me on flatbed, I'm a solo driver, I drive by myself. So technically you're not making more money, you're just, you know, you're just getting loads done a lot quicker. That's pretty much it, so you can get on to your next load. But if you look at it as flatbed division, we go shorter miles that we can actually get done by ourselves in a reasonable amount of time, either a day or 2, and make decent money. Where flatbed division, you're going like 2,000 plus miles, so yeah, you have to have 2 drivers on that. So technically, no, you're not making more money, you're just getting the loads there quicker, so it seems like you're making more money. Because if you were to yourself, yeah, it'd probably take you like 4 or 5 days to do 2,000-3,000 miles by yourself. So yeah, so technically you're not making more money, you're just finishing loads quicker. You're still doing the same amount that you're doing as a regular driver. They're trucks, so you can they have 1-year lease trucks, they have 6 month lease trucks that are like they have been torn down, well not torn down, but they have been broken in by all their team drivers, so they have a ton of miles. You don't know how the health of the truck is, none of that stuff. So that's the reason why it's 6 months, because they want you to hurry up and have it paid off and, you know, be stuck with it. And then they have longer leases for trucks that are, you know, higher in price. So, you know, there's that. And so, and then back to the money aspect of it. So with a student, what they don't really tell you, I don't believe, because like when I went through the mentor class they have you go through, they don't tell you this, is that the student, when they get on your truck, CRST, to help alleviate them paying so much out of pocket to have that student trained, they consider that student on your truck your employee until they graduate. And what I mean by that is, say if you were to hire a driver onto your truck, you have to pay that driver for helping you finish loads, you know, stuff like that. So what they don't tell people is that for every mile that student drives, they're going to charge you 17 or 20 cents a mile to help accumulate that student's going to make 34 cents a mile. So here it is. I mean, it doesn't really sound that bad. I'm pretty sure that's how some of you are looking at it. It doesn't sound that bad. But for me, if I'm training this driver for your company, why are you charging me to train them for you, and then you're just going to take them back once they're, you know, experienced driver and they know what they're doing, and you're just going to take them back? And, you know, this student's putting wear and tear on your truck, and they're not really going to compensate you for that wear and tear on your truck that, you know, that student's helping accumulate. So yeah, for me, having to pay a student to teach that student was just ridiculous to me. And then another thing they don't tell you, well, they don't really tell you, well, okay, scratch that, they tell you in a kind of roundabout way, and that is, if that student wrecks your truck, get into an accident in your truck or anything like that, CRST will pay half of your deductible. You're responsible for the other half because it's your truck, which is just stupid as hell to me. It's like, if technically their employee wrecked my truck, you need to be responsible for 100% of the deductible on all my repairs. So that's another reason why I got out of the mentorship program, because I actually did have that issue where a student wrecked my truck and they wanted me to pay half of it, and I was like, screw that, y'all can have the truck back. Flatbed division has been trying to get me to come over here, so I'm gonna just go over there, and that's what it did. I went over to the flatbed division because I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for the repairs on this truck when I wasn't the one responsible for the damages to the truck. So there was that, and but all in all, I mean, it wasn't really a bad experience per se, because I wanted to teach people how to drive and be safer out on the road, because you constantly hear about all these accidents and stuff like that. So got into it, but mainly because I wanted to try and teach people how to be safer out here, how to do the job, stuff like that. I mean, because out of the 20 students I trained, which is going to sound bad because about the number I'm about to. The number I'm about to say, because I was what you would consider a hard ass, but I was strict with my training. Like, because I really wanted my students to understand that yes, this job makes you money, but yeah, it's not one of those jobs that you just come into and think, you know, it's all willy-nilly like driving a car. So out of the 20 students I trained, I think I graduated a total of 6 of them. And yes, I know that is a low number out of the amount of students I trained. I graduated a total of 6 of them. And that was because most of the students, whenever they get on my truck, the first words they hear out of my mouth is, do you want the hardest training that you can get that's going to make you the safest driver out here, or do you want the easy mode? Most of them all usually choose, you know, strict ass training because they want to do this job right. And so the way I used to teach my students was look as far as you can, like as far as you can see. I want to know what's up there ahead of you before we even get within a mile of it. Like, if you can see 4 or 5 miles down the highway, I see 4 or 5 miles down the highway. At least then you know what to expect before you even get to it. So, like, one of my students, one of the ones that graduated, like, I trained her to a level where, like, whenever we went through California down I-10, there's always that moment going down the mountain that you can look down the mountain and you can see damn near, let's say about 10 miles ahead to see what's all the way down that mountain towards the city. And so she was trained enough where she knows she can see the traffic down there, start knowing that you're going to need to slow down before you even get anywhere near there. And so she was happy with that. Some students just didn't understand that, or they just didn't want to take that in. So there was that. And also part of my training was I randomly tell a student, like, hey, what mile marker do we pass? What was on a billboard? What kind of cars are behind me? What kind of cars are in front of us? What kind of car was on the side of us without looking through your mirror? Like, I literally put my students through the ringer on when it came to the training. And then I was even harder when it came to backing, because I'd set my students up in some of the worst backing situations, like back this truck up into, okay, let me put it this way. I'd at least wait until they have at least a good 2 weeks of backing in before I start getting into the harder backings, where I just throw them in, like, I'll put the truck in the worst position and be like, hey, back it up, and expect them to do it. But out of some of the drivers, they'll call me up and they're like, they were happy that I did that, because now they can go to any place in any situation and be able to back their truck up. Looks like an accident up here. Give me a minute and I'll get back to talking about this. So one of the backing situations I put a driver through was, how would you classify it? I'm trying to think of the best way to classify it. So pretty much I pretty much taught him how to back up in a complete circle, is the best way I can say how to do it. Like, he could, like, I pretty much showed him how he could take his truck from facing a building to backing it up in an arch and getting into the spot he needs to without ever having to back up. But yeah, so my training wasn't the easiest. It was pretty hard, but the drivers that I know that have graduated, they're the happiest that I've taught them that way, because most of them call me up talking about the companies they're with now, that they went there and their team drivers thought they were like the most experienced drivers, or their dispatchers or people who, you know, during the hiring process thought they were just, that they have like 4 or 5 years of experience, and, you know, and they're just brand new drivers that they just got off my truck. But after, yeah, I just got off my truck when I got these jobs. And it's like, so yeah, my training wasn't the easiest, but I trained some good students. That's all I have to say about it. And but yeah, other than that, no longer doing the mentorship because it was kind of stressful. Because the main one that, other than the student wrecking my truck, the other one that kind of got me out of mentoring was one student where it was a snowstorm in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I told him to pull off the road because of the storm, and he could barely see in front of the truck. But he wanted to still drive because because apparently his family owned a trucking business, and he says he had the experience on how to drive a truck and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, the minute you get on my truck as a student, I don't care what experience you have, how long you've been driving, if your family owned a company, like, you are brand new, you have no experience when you step onto my truck. So I told him to pull off. He didn't want to pull off, and I told him it was unsafe to be, you know, driving in this weather because you could barely see a foot in front of the truck. And he was like, if I didn't know what I was doing, I'd be, and so he would jank the wheel and pretty much make it look, you know, like he was gonna lose control. Like, I'd be like that. I'm like, bruh, you do that shit on my truck again, your ass is gonna be walking back to the nearest terminal. And so eventually I was able to get him to pull the truck over, waited until the snowstorm was over, and then I drove the truck to Riverside, California, where they have a terminal there. Pretty much kicked him off the truck there, and yeah, after that I had took one more student, and that student was the one that wrecked me. Well, the new student, after I dropped him off, was a student who, after being out on the road for 3 weeks, came the 3rd week, I thought he had it, and so, you know, I left him to actually drive by himself. Like I said, he hit something with the truck, just pretty much wrecked it, and after that I was pretty much done, and that's when I switched over here to flatbed and been doing this since. So